Is this usage of LOL considered a hedge? In doing some research on another question, I bumped into the term hedge. A hedge is a mitigating device used to lessen the impact of an utterance. Typically, they are adjectives or adverbs, but can also consist of clauses. It could be regarded as a form of euphemism. I commonly see LOL online, but recently I have noticed it used as such. I completely forgot about our meeting. LOL. I am completely embarrassed. LOL. Oh wow, I was a complete retard. Will you forgive me? LOL. The final example could use some punctuation, but these uses seem different than the original use of LOL. It seems to signal an embarrassment or defensiveness in an attempt to A. Avoid conflict, B. Claim no hard feelings, C. Lighten the mood, or D. Something else. In any case, while I am curious about this usage in general, I am more specifically asking about its classification. Is this considered a hedge? Or am I not understanding this term correctly?
This link might just be an undergraduate's work, but it has the benefit of being reasonably accessible to non-specialists looking for a definition. This one is more technical, to say the least. It's important to note that there's no real consensus among professional linguists about what exactly constitutes a hedge, and there's much confusion on the internet about who coined the term anyway. It was actually George Lakoff in 1973, but Google mostly shows stuff from Robin Lakoff. She looks more like a feminist than a linguist to me, and I suspect she co-opted the term for her specific agenda. G. Lakoff's coinage metaphorically referred to boundary words between two identifiable structural elements in an utterance. Semantically, they might mitigate, amplify, or be neutral. The important thing is they're not really identifiable syntactic elements in standard textual analysis terms. Connotations with the verb to hedge, in the sense of speak evasively, steer one towards the Wikipedia interpretation. But I don't think that was ever intended, by George, disregarding Robin, and it may even be unhelpful. I really think we should be careful about accepting Wikipedia's definition of hedge in this sense. Not least because several of their pages in this general area are flagged as being below standard. TLDR, don't get too hung up on whether something is a hedge or not. Even the professionals don't agree.
My understanding behind hedges is that they have to do with word choice. Emoticons and fragments seem to me a way to textually convey tone as a substitute for facial expression, body language, tone of voice, and so on. They're not textual, they're subtextual elements. If you're willing to think of an ironic or sarcastic grin as a hedge, then there's no reason you can't consider LOL as a hedge. If you want to think of hedges as textual elements only, then I'd say LOL and smileys are not hedges, strictly speaking.
Semantically, yes. Linguistically, no. In your examples, LOL functions like a hedge in the sense of its meaning and use in context. However, LOL is not linguistically a hedge, because it does not have the properties that lexemes called hedges have. Think of hedging language in the sense of the idiom, to hedge one's bets, undoubtedly the source of the linguistic label. The English idiom derives from the concept of a literal hedge, which adds, in a garden, a substantial but incomplete measure of protection. Similarly, hedge language deliberately tempers and restricts the extent/boldness of an author's claims, without stifling them altogether. The key here is deliberately. Linguistic hedge strictly understood is a lexeme which deliberately weakens or constrains a statement. For example, sort of, I think, I feel, in my opinion, it seems, it may be, approximately, presumably, sometimes, it strikes me that, almost as though, possibly. The common denominator of these expressions is that their meaning implicitly involves fuzziness. Lakoff, 1972. That is, even reading these words outside of context, we can see that they smack of a certain cautious, reserved, or tentative quality. They express limitation. They aspire to constrain the extent or power of a statement. Read the list again, and you will notice that all these words have this quality. Indeed, check any pragmatics textbook, and I guarantee you that all their examples of linguistic hedges will have this quality, too. Note also that the quality is inherent in these words. This is what it means for a particular lexeme to be a hedge, provided, of course, that its function in context is also one of hedging. The LOL in your example does do the latter, but it does not meet the lexical criteria for a hedge, because it has no inherent sense of fuzziness. Therefore, strictly speaking, it is not a hedge. And we must indeed call it not a hedge. But I think it would be fair to call it hedging language, a term which somehow seems a bit more modest, more hedged to me, in light of its semantic function, which is consistent with hedging. As for why such a fine-grained distinction is important, the semantic operation of hedging can be achieved in indefinite surface forms. Brown/Levinson 1978. This means that infinite numbers of verbal and non-verbal acts including LOL and far beyond can have the hedging function in particular contexts. But in order to get a maximum of use value out of the strict label, hedge, within the context of linguistics, we use it to refer specifically to that defined class of lexical operators that all make meaning in the same particular way. Since LOL does not do so, it is not a hedge in this rigorous sense.